Hello everyone. Welcome to this session, Fundamentals of Yoga. And the topics we are going to cover here is first thing is introduction to know exactly what yoga is, then to know the source of yoga, and we'll try to understand the 8 limbs of yoga. So these are all the topics which basically has to be understood when we start our asana practice or pranayama and meditation. Now, without further delay, let's move to the next slide. What exactly yoga is? Okay. So before we know what is yoga, we'll try to understand why people are seeking the practice of yoga nowadays, why people are visiting the yoga studios and all. So first thing, so we have been getting the queries for practice of yoga, that is for the general well-being or for the sake of health. And nowadays, it is people are much aware about building the immunity and fight the diseases. Okay. So this is the one requirement people are looking to practice the yogasana. Then balancing. See, balancing is not only the physical balancing, it is balancing your emotional state. That is to bring the emotional stability. Then to improve the focus. Of course, focus is very important for student to concentrate on his studies, right? And same thing for the working class also, because with better concentration, you will be able to finish the assigned task faster and effectively. And flexibility, to improve the flexibility also. Okay. So why flexibility is required? That is mainly with flexibility, the movement of or the range of movement of our muscles and joints are improved, because of which the tendency of getting injured during physical activities come down. And yes, people are practicing yoga to build strength and stamina also. And the physical strength is also one thing which we gain when we practice yoga or the asana. And also relaxation is very important. We see today it's a competitive world, right? And constantly, because of the work pressure or the study pressure, people are in stressed condition. And relaxation also is also required for one to de-stress. Okay. So now let us understand what is yoga. The shloka says, Yujyate anena iti yogaha. Yujyate means it is to bind or yoke. So what to bind or what to yoke? See, here it is yoking of body to mind and mind to soul. Okay. Means they are all interlinked. So state the example to tell how it is interlinked. So we may notice that, say for example, for some reasons I'm physically means not healthy and I have fallen sick for some reasons. What happens if this prolongs? If the prolongs more than a week or more than 4 days or 5 days, what happens? My mental state will be disturbed. Means I will get disturbed emotionally. Similarly, I may be healthy, but for some reasons I have become sad. For some external reason. So what happens? Gradually that will start cropping up in our physical health condition also. Okay. So that way it is interlinked. And one beauty of this is when I try to improve the one area, say for example, I am mentally disturbed, then if I concentrate working on my physical aspect, that is following the asana and keep myself healthy, that way I will be able to correct the other area also. Okay. So this is what yoga is. Yujyate anena iti yoga. And so we must not forget to mention that the main aim of yoga is yoga. The shloka says yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So what is chitta vritti? Chitta is mind and vritti is modification. Okay. Means we should be able to control the mind, or we should gain the mastery over the mind, because when we are able to gain the mastery over the mind, we'll be able to achieve anything. We'll be strong enough to face any situation. This is what is main aim of yoga. Okay. So how to gain mastery over the mind? Okay, that is through cessation of thoughts. Okay. So how to bring cessation? Like there is a saying, you can stop the wind from flowing, but you cannot stop mind from controlling. Okay. So that's the difficulty to bring the cessation of thoughts. Okay. So the main aim of yoga is to do that. That is what yoga, the steps of yogas are. Okay. So and now, when we talk about the practice of yoga, okay. So what we have to understand now is that we have to know the source of yoga, okay. But before that, we know there are many forms of yoga. There is Iyengar Yoga, Mysore style Ashtanga Yoga, then Bihar School of Yoga, or Satyananda style, Shivananda style, many yoga schools, right? So there may be many n number of forms of yoga, but still they are looking for the source. So means they are referring the source. So it is most of time either Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because these are the authoritative one, okay, and authentic source of yoga. When I talk about Patanjali Yoga is called Ashtanga Yoga or 8 limbs of yoga because it has 8 steps. Similarly, Hatha Yoga is called Shadanga Yoga, means it has 6 steps. There are many things in common between these two, and the goal is same, to gain mastery over the mind. Okay. So let us know this 8 limbs and 6 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga and Hatha Yoga. So here, what we see here is the 8 steps of yoga are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Okay. So here again we can notice that there are things which are common. So in Hatha Yoga also we have Yama, Niyama, and Asana, and then we have Pranayama in Hatha Yoga, and we have the final state, that is Samadhi, because the aim is same. However, there are only 3 distinct things, that is Shatkriya, Bandhas, and Mudras. So what we'll do is, we'll try to understand the 8 limbs of yoga or 8 steps of yoga to gain the mastery over the mind. The common things we will cover, and later we'll try to understand the distinct things, which is Shatkriya, Bandhas, and Mudras. Okay. So moving to next slide. The first step is Yama. The Yama is the moral commandment or the basic rule which has to be followed by us. These are all the things which we know already. Okay. But only thing is we will have to follow it effectively. Okay. So here the Yama says Ahimsa Satya Asteya Brahmacharya Aparigraha. Okay. That means let us talk one aspect at a time. So first one is Ahimsa. Ahimsa means, first we'll have to know these words. Himsa means, it's violence. Okay. It could be hurting physically or mentally. Means not, means we should follow the path of non-violence. We should at any cost not try to hurt anyone physically or mentally. Okay. Then comes Satya. So Mahatma Gandhi said there is no God higher than truth. Means we'll have to build up the courage to speak the truth. It might be difficult. Okay. The truth may hurt for a while, but lie hurts forever. Means with lie we cannot survive for long, because truth remains truth always, and it will surface someday or the other day. So we'll have to follow the path of Satya. Then comes Asteya. Asteya is not only about stealing others' belongings, means non-stealing. We should avoid stealing things. Not only that, and we should not even manipulate the things for our own personal gain. Okay. Because when I do that, I cannot escape. I cannot escape from the law, and finally, someday or other day, even if you are over smart and manipulative, will be get caught. Will be get caught. For that reason, stealing has to be refrained or totally stopped. Then comes Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is about Patanjali insisted on following the celibacy, because you'll be able to concentrate better. And on the other hand, our time should be dedicated on things which brings the self-improvement. That is what Brahmacharya is. Okay. Then comes Aparigraha. Parigraha is holding and Aparigraha is non-holding. So no doubt we need wealth, right? Parigraha is means we need wealth to meet our basic needs or to meet our esteem needs. But how much we need, how much we should retain is also, there has to be, means we should learn to say enough. Once we have got the money, the required amount of money, we should be able to say enough. And the same has to be distributed among the needy, should be given to the needy who are in need of this. Okay. So that is Aparigraha. So this we know already, it has, some of us might be following this. So, but how effectively is a question. Then comes Niyama. Niyama is for self-improvement. Okay. So Niyama, we have 5 aspects. Those are Saucha, Santosha, Swadhyaya, Tapa, and Ishvara Pranidhana. See, Niyama is about self-improvement. We will have to work towards our self-improvement. And what are those aspects? First one is Saucha. Saucha, no doubt, we are involved in external cleansing by daily bath or brushing our teeth. These are all external cleansing. And internal cleansing. Now, internal cleansing happens. For example, when we do the asana, we sweat out. That way, all the toxins are coming out of the body and the internal cleansing is happening. And the practice of pranayama purifies the lung, okay, or the respiratory tract. So that way, the internal cleansing happening. Not only that, our mind should also be free from the emotional disturbance. This is also internal cleansing, okay. So that is Saucha. Second is Santosha, feeling contented. This is very important, right? So first thing is contented means it should not be misunderstood about complacent. We should set the goal and strive towards that, means put efforts in achieving the goal. But we should not be attached to result because of our ego. And we should not even be jealous of the possession of what other people have, okay. So just this picture would be a better illustration wherein a person is thinking about not having the shoe and later he observes that there is another person without leg, and you could see there is means it's not about comparing himself to others and think that he is better. So we will have to think, we will have to compare ourselves, means we will have to see what are the best things which has been given to us. That way we should be happy. That is most important. There are certain things or certain gifts given by God to us which we have to make use of, rather complaining of not what we don't have. So that is santosha. Then comes tapa, that is burning effort to achieve the desired result, okay. So now that classic example for burning effort here is the story of Arunima Sinha, okay. Arunima Sinha had to meet with a tragic incident. This happened when she was traveling in a train. A gang of thieves tries to loot valuables from her, and she resisted. And because of this, the thieves got enraged and pushed her out of the train. And she had to lie there for hours. And later, she was rushed to a hospital wherein her leg had to be cut to avoid the spread of infection. And now, being a prosthetic, she decided she wanted to achieve something because she was ambitious and she wanted to achieve something and prove the world she is not weak. So she wanted to climb the Mount Everest. This was her ambition. So what is the thinking of common people immediately? Will start thinking that she's gone nuts. How could she climb the Mount Everest? Because climbing Mount Everest is not an easy feat, right? So you will have to be physically fit, mentally fit, and again, if you see the survival rate, because the weather conditions are very harsh and your survival chances are less, and you will have to carry your own oxygen because as and when you go on the peak, there is no oxygen. You will have to carry your own oxygen. So giving such challenges, with such challenges, a prosthetic going up on the Mount Everest and going up on the peak and coming back is really, it takes guts. Okay. And finally, Arunima Sinha could achieve this because of her effort and determination. So how much effort we are putting to achieve our desired goal. Okay. So this is very important. So tapa is burning effort. Then comes Swadhyaya, fourth one. Okay. Swadhyaya is Swa is self and Adhyaya is learning. So one should dedicate their time, at least for some hours, towards self-learning because learning should never stop. Learning is one of the best means to improve ourselves. Then comes last one, Ishvara Pranidhana. Now, when I followed all this, I might be following all yama and all the niyamas. Then what happens? Now again, there is a tendency of my ego inflating. Then when I am not getting the results, I'll start doubting, right? Start doubting on everything, and again there is a chances that I might start feeling sad. So here, what we have to understand is the Karma Yoga says, put your efforts and do not expect the result because the only privilege what we have is effort. So we will have to concentrate on the effort. So Ishwarana Pranidhana is about surrendering yourself to God and trusting yourself to God. When your determination is right and when your perspective is right, definitely will be able to achieve. So one classic example here too is Thomas Alva Edison. Before he could invent the electric bulb, it is believed that he failed 10,000 times. So that was the determination of Edison. So how many times have we failed to achieve the given desired goal? Okay. So that way, so Ishvara Pranidhana is keeping the faith in ourselves and the Lord. So these are Yama and Niyama, which has to be followed before Asana, which is very vital. Then comes Asana. See, Asana, as we know already, we have been practicing this. And before we try doing the asana, it's very important. We have to warm up adequately. And one of the best means is practicing the Surya Namaskar. And the shloka says when I do the asana has to be stiram sukham asanam. Stira is steady or comfortable, and sukham steady, and sukham is comfortable. Okay. That means before I attempt doing the static posture, I will have to do some dynamic moves, and Surya Namaskar is most suitable for this. As you know, it is the um, sequence of 12 powerful postures done one after the other, synchronizing the breath. Then comes the yogis gave importance for two things while practicing the asana. One is the spine flexibility. Okay. So why the spine flexibility is required? Because it is believed that you are as young as your spine flexible. See, when the spine is stiff, okay, that is where a person is going to suffer various problems, is lower backache or the postural imbalance and all. Okay. For that reason, to improve the spine flexibility, the general postures are like we practice the forward bending posture or side bending and binding the hand or twisting posture, spinal twist and back bends, inversions. Okay. So there are 6 different ways by how we practice the asana or yogis give importance. The second one is there should not be any fat around the abdomen, because most of the diseases today are associated with fat around the abdomen. Diabetes happens because of obesity or the fat around the abdomen, or some kind of organ not functioning properly is happening because of fat. So there are some asanas like Navasana, Ubhayapadangusthasana, or Virabhadrasana, which is known to cut down the fat and also builds the core strength and physical strength. So this is about asana. Then comes the fourth limb, pranayama. Okay. So prana, we'll try to understand what is prana and what is ayama. So prana means the very good reason why I'm surviving is because of breathing. So here, breathing is referred as prana, and ayama is the lengthening of the breath. Okay. So here, pranayama, why the importance, we have to give importance for pranayama can be better understood with this graph. Here we could see on the x-axis we have a number of breaths per minute, and sorry, on the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis it is longevity in years. For a comparison, if you see these 4 creatures, first one is mouse. The mouse can survive for 1 to 3 years, and the breaths they are taking per minute, their respiration rate is 80 to 120 breaths per minute. Means it is very shallow and fast. Okay. Then comes the chimpanzee, which can breathe 24 to 60, which takes 24 to 60 breaths, and they survive for 40 years. The human being, you can see the breathing rate is less here, 12 to 18 times as compared to chimpanzee and mouse, and the average lifespan is somewhere around 80 to 100 years. And here we could notice that the longest living creature on earth is a tortoise, and it survives more than 350 years, and its breathing rate is 3 to 5 breaths. So here pranayama is deliberate attempt to lengthening the breath. Okay. So this is what pranayama is. So that is the means if you are able to practice the pranayama properly, the longevity increases. That means you will be free from the mental or the other physical health problems. Okay. So next comes the pratyahara. Pratyahara is about controlling the sense organs or depending on internally rather the external source for happiness. Like we notice many times we are dependent on others for the happiness. Someone should make us happy. Someone should appreciate us, or some kind of material object should bring us the happiness and all. See, pratyahara is about seeking the happiness internally. See, if you see this, notice this figure of turtle. If you see, if the tortoise faces the external threat, what it does, it just goes inside, and that is for protection, that is for shelter. Okay. Similarly, we have to depend internally for our happiness rather depending externally. Okay. And that is possible through controlling the organs, means control of our senses. Okay. Now it's again very challenging. So I might tell that, for example, now I have set a goal to reduce the weight. The obesity is creating all sorts of diseases, bringing diseases and problems and all. So one of the ways to bring down the weight is to control the craving for food, right? The craving has to come down. So that means I should be able to control my senses. So now there is craving is so much that I'm not able to control. So what should I do in that case? So that is where we have to take one step behind, practice the pranayama, because the yogis say that when you are able to control the breathing, next you will be able to control the mind, and that way the senses are controlled. Okay. So that is pratyahara, withdrawal of sense organs. Then comes dharana. Dharana is about intense concentration, because the dharana can be said, the dharana is translated as ekagra in Sanskrit. So the ekagra person has superior intellectual powers to achieve his purpose. Means the person with good concentration capability will be able to achieve anything. So the story of Mahabharata would be a good example, wherein Dronacharya called all his pupils, Kauravas and Pandavas, and the task was to hit the arrow to parrot's eye. Okay, the bird's eye, which is a parrot. And here the bird was tied to a mango tree which was green in color, and Duryodhana was called to do this task. He told he couldn't spot the parrot at all. And then turn came of Bhima. Bhima was told all he could spot is only mangoes and not the bird. And finally, when the turn came of Arjuna, he was able to hit exactly the target point, which is eye of the parrot. And that way he went on to become the best archer. Okay. So this is just one example what I am giving, and we might have noticed the person who achieved the greater rise, their concentration levels are known to be are known to be higher. Okay, so this is dharana. Then comes dhyana. So dhyana is meditation in English. If you translate it is meditation. Now, what is meditation? Meditation in actual is intense concentration of long time, long duration. So if you see here, for example, when you pour the oil from one vessel to another vessel, the flow is continuous. There is no cut. Similarly, the flow of concentration has to be for longer duration of time without any distraction. That is dhyana, and this is meditation. And then next step comes samadhi, wherein the chitta vritti nirodha is possible, or you will be able to gain the mastery of mind. Okay. Now I will tell I am very smart. Now I will directly come and do the meditation. Why should I do the asana? Why should I follow the yama and niyama and all? Directly I will do the meditation, and that way I will be able to achieve the purpose. And now I will tell without following yama and niyama. For example, in yama, I am not following ahimsa. I keep on fighting with others. Okay. So what is happening? When I sit for meditation, I will not be able to concentrate because I have that fear. I have that fear that I have hurt someone and he might retort, or all the disturbances comes to our mind. Now I'll tell I will not practice asana, and I will straight away sit for meditation. Now what happens? I'm not practicing asana. My bones are not in healthy condition, and meditation requires you to sit for long hours. And within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'll start complaining that my lower back is aching and all, right? And again, I will not be able to concentrate. Similarly, if the breathing is disturbed, I'm not practicing pranayama and breathing is disturbed. So what is happening then? Definitely will not be able to again concentrate. So that is what dhyana is. Dhyana is intense concentration. For that reason, immediately I sit for the meditation could be a difficulty. For that reason, Patanjali clearly enumerated and explained that follow the eightfold path of yoga effectively, and that way you will be able to do the meditation and also gain the mastery over the mind. So these are the 8 steps of yoga. The final state samadhi, as I told. Then let us understand the distinct things of, now we understood the common things of Ashtanga Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Now we will try to understand the distinct thing, which is Kshatriya, Bandha and Mudras. See, Kshatriyas are, the main aim of Kshatriyas is cleansing, because if there is impurities in the body, again we'll be exposed to diseases, and that way we'll not be able to control our mind. So here the purification steps are, one is Trataka. Trataka is intense gazing of candle. So when we do this, say for example, 5 minutes or 10 minutes without blinking the eyes, we know the obvious thing which happens is the eyes turns red and the eyes will start watering, and because of which all the impurities from the eyes are coming down. Okay. Then that way purification of eyes is happening. Then the purification of respiratory tract through Kapalbhati. Kapalbhati, the procedure here is passive inhalation and forceful exhalation. When we do the forceful exhalation, what happens? All the stale gases in the lungs are coming out, and that way the lungs or the respiratory tracts are purified. Then comes Neti. Neti is for cleansing the nasal passages by pouring the saline water on one nostril and taking out in other nostril. Okay. Then the fourth one is Dauti for cleansing of the digestive tract through vomiting. And Nauli is churning of abdominal muscles, cleansing of all the abdominal organs, activating them. And Basti is about cleansing it's a colonic cleansing. Okay. So now each of this has several benefits when we do this, but only thing is, so I must caution or warn here telling that it should not be attempt without adequate knowledge, and this should be practiced only under supervision of experienced yoga teacher. Okay, because ignoring this might result in contraindication, and that might result in adverse effect. So please practice this only when some your expertise around you. Then comes the bandhas and mudras. So what is bandhas? Bandhas means sealing or locking of the energy. We could see there are three different types of bandha. Jalandhara bandha, which is called chin lock, Uddiyana bandha, which is abdominal lock, and Mula bandha is root lock. The main purpose of bandhas is to retain the energy by closing the orifices through which there is a tendency of energy dissipating. And the mudras. So if you see the mudra here is, it is a psychic gesture or the gestures of the fingers. Here you could see the thumb and index finger joint. And normally in meditative pose, we observe a person adopting the chin mudra. When the chin mudra is practiced, it is said that our concentration levels is improved, or the focus is improved. I'm just stating one mudra here. So it is only for the essence I am telling what is bandha and mudras here. Still, it's a very deep subjects which we will have to understand. For the fundamentals, it is enough that we know this much. So this will end this session. Thank you for your patience listening. Hope this helps you to keep your yoga journey effective. Thank you. Thank you very much.